Hey guys, what's up? This is the Art Occultist and my name is Elisa. I'm so happy to have you here. So, today we are doing something a bit different. I have a new hashtag idea for the community, and you've already seen it from the title of this video, but this is hashtag my path through decks. And the whole idea came to me last night as I was rearranging my collection, looking through what I have, decluttering a bit of things. And I thought to myself that it would be very cool to do this hashtag, and basically the idea is to track the development and the influences throughout your spiritual journey, throughout your spiritual path, and illustrate the bigger influences of your spirituality through decks in your collection. I hope that this makes sense, but it will make more sense once I start showing you the decks that I have here on the table and explaining why I chose them for each category. Now, this hashtag is highly individual, so my categories will vary from your categories, but the whole idea is to showcase and to explain the influences that you've had on your spiritual path and to illustrate them with tarot or oracle decks or playing cards or what have you. This is very individual, and I thought that it will be very fun for each and every one of us in the community to do, and it will be a way for our viewers to get to know us better. So let's begin. And my first category is going to be childlike wonder and fascination with magic. And basically, my fascination with magic became apparent to me at a very early age. I remember when I was 3 years old, I had to undergo a surgery. I had eye surgeries. And I have those vivid memories from the hospital being 3 years old. Of my grandfather making me some snacks of yogurt and sweet biscuits and reading me Harry Potter. Now, I know that Harry Potter and his author are very controversial. I don't agree with her political views and stances, but I cannot bend the fact that Harry Potter played a huge role in my interest in magic growing up. This was the first magical story that really made an impact on me, and I've read the books so many times. I've watched the movies so many times. Even though I don't agree with the author, Harry Potter as a franchise has had a great influence on me. So the other part that was a very influential thing on my very early years were cheesy Halloween type of movies like Casper, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Ghostbusters, all those classics. And for my childlike wonder and fascination with magic, I chose to illustrate that category with the Halloween tarot. Halloween was my favorite holiday growing up, even though the place that I live in, Bulgaria, where I'm from, Halloween was never popular, and it's only been popular in the past maybe 6 to 10 years. But when I was a child, nobody celebrated Halloween and it wasn't a thing. But I've had this childlike wonder about magic from all of those movies that I saw, those Halloween cheesy movies, Casper, all of those things. And yeah, the Halloween Tarot is one of my favorite decks for inner child work because of that reason. Now, in terms of Harry Potter, I don't have a deck for that, but the whole feeling that I remember having when my grandfather was reading Harry Potter to me, I think that the Halloween Tarot encapsulates that childlike wonder and fascination, and those emotions of being a child and really believing in magic and really being fascinated with this world and the characters. And yeah, I think that you get where I'm going with this. But yeah, the Halloween Tarot is having a place in my heart and in my collection forever because of that reason of bringing that childlike wonder to my practice once again. And it's a deck that I use year round. It always brings a smile to my face for that reason. So let's move forward, and the second category that I have for you guys is pop culture influences that I've had on my practice. And here I want to say once again, Harry Potter was very influential. The TV show Charmed was very influential. Then came Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is an absolute comfort blanket for me. Actually, all those three franchises are very close to my heart. And whenever I feel sad or depressed, I tend to rewatch my favorite shows and movies. So yeah. And the other one is Supernatural. All of those, I feel that had something to do with the fact that I wanted to be a witch from a very early age, and I had this huge fascination with magic and the mystical, the occult. And for that category, I chose to show you the Buffy the Vampire Slayer Tarot. This is the first edition because from all of the franchises that I listed, this is the only one that I have a tarot or deck representation, really. I really love this deck. To be quite honest, I don't use it for readings. I use it just for raising my vibes, if you will, whenever I'm sad, depressed, and I don't have the time to actually watch a movie or rewatch the whole series. I just tend to take this one out and look through the cards, and it always makes me smile. It always makes me feel better. And growing up, Buffy was a escape for me. I had a very tough childhood, and all of those worlds, those fictional worlds, if you will, they were my safety, my way to survive in a way and to keep my sanity intact in a way. And I was a huge reader. I loved watching TV series and movies while I was growing up. And yeah, so I really love Willow. And Willow, if you're a fan of the Buffy franchise, is a witch. And yeah, I really love this show. Okay, so those were the childlike wonder and the pop culture influences that I have on my practice, and why I actually stepped into the spiritual path in the first place. Then let's move to the actual spiritual paths that have influenced me so far. If you're not new to the channel, you know that I started my path with Wicca when I was 12 or 13 years old. This was back in 2008, 2009, somewhere around that period of time. And how I actually discovered Wicca was I was browsing the books in my local library, and for some reason I found a Wicca for Teenagers by Silver Raven Wolf. Sorry guys, I don't think I can speak today very well. And yeah, it was very strange because during that period of time where I live, Wicca, witchcraft, all of those things, they were not popular. You It was unheard of to go into a bookstore and have a metaphysical section like we have nowadays, and finding a witchcraft book in a local library was even stranger. But anyway, when I saw the book, I still have it to this day. I saved up and I actually bought myself a copy so that I can own it. I checked the book out from the library. I read it, I reread it, and I was instantly hooked. And by that point in my development, I was, like I said, 12 or 13. All of the religions that I knew was Christianity, Muslim religion, Buddhism, but my family was not very spiritual or religious, so I wasn't forced to follow a path or anything like that. So I was okay with bringing this book home and exploring it. Now, there was a little bit of backlash from my family because they didn't really understand what witchcraft was. Like I said, it was a time where this was not socially acceptable or popular, but due time they learned to accept it, even though they were not very strict religious people or anything like that. So for my Wicca discovery and my Wicca influence, I chose to illustrate that with this deck. This is a custom-made box that I created. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot. And the Everyday Witch Tarot, for me, I've said this on the channel already a couple of times. This deck captures that initial wonder and cheesiness of that book, the Wicca for Teens by Silver Ravenwolf. For me, the Everyday Witch Tarot feels the same as that book felt. It's cheesy, it's very 90s, and it fills my heart with joy because this is the place where I started my craft. This is where I fully stepped into the spiritual path for myself. And I've never stepped away. And the Everyday Witch Tarot, it's not perfect deck, but the energy and the vibe that I'm getting from it is that it's very sentimental to me for those reasons. And even though I haven't considered myself Wiccan for a long period of time, I still hold that path very close to my heart because of what it did to me, because it opened the door to exploring the occult, the mystical, the spiritual. And yeah, even though people nowadays hate on Wicca and they really say that it's all made up, actually every spiritual path is made up by humans. And yeah, but Wicca, for me, it opened the door, and the Everyday Witch holds the same emotions and the energy that I felt when I first started my journey. Okay, so from Wicca, then and by the way, this is not an extensive list, but I'm just listing the paths and traditions that had most influence on me and my spiritual development so far. There are other paths that I have explored, but they were not as vital or as interesting to me. I just wanted to add that. So from Wicca, then I discovered Western occult tradition with Golden Dawn, Thelema, and that whole current of ceremonial magic. I also explored Levian Satanism. I read the Satanic Bible very early on, and I learned a lot from that. I've never been a Satanist nor Levian, either theistic Satanist, but Satanism also played a huge part, especially the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, in my very early development in terms of literature. Now I don't have a deck for that, but I have a few decks that came from the Golden Dawn and Thelema. And I'm starting with the Hermetic Tarot. This is a classic deck in the tarot community, and yeah, it's a Golden Dawn type of deck. I've been fascinated with the Golden Dawn, Thelema, and their way of doing magic, the ceremonial type of magic. I love reading about it. I love taking inspiration and elements from it, but personally myself, I've not been a ceremonial magician, and in the strict sense, I've never been a dedicant or initiate in any of those traditions. I've always been a solitary practitioner, and I think that I will be always a solitary practitioner, and I'm very eclectic in my spiritual path, and I take the parts that resonate with me and I leave the rest. But yeah, Golden Dawn and Thelema played a huge part in my spiritual education, if you will. So the Hermetic Tarot. Then we have the Rider-Waite-Smith, of course. This, to this day, is one of my favorite decks. It's my number one deck, and if I could only own one deck, without a doubt, I would have this one and this particular version of it. Now, when I started my Wicca journey back in the day, my actual first tarot deck was a pocket Rider-Waite-Smith deck. I still have it to this day, but it's retired because it looks like shit and it's not usable anymore. But yeah, I've learned the tarot on a Rider-Waite-Smith, and this is my all-time favorite deck. Nothing beats the Rider-Waite-Smith in my eyes, in my opinion. It's deep, it has a lot of symbolism. You can do everything with this deck. For my client readings, I only read with a Rider-Waite-Smith deck or Rider-Waite-Smith inspired decks because it's very relatable to other people. I know it like the back of my hand, even better actually. And yeah, Rider-Waite-Smith is my soul deck, if you will. And then in the same category of Golden Dawn and Thelema, I have the Thought deck by Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley, you can think whatever you want about this guy, but he was an excellent magician and occultist. And he was very influential in the Western occult tradition. So there is no doubt about it. I've learned about a lot from Crowley. Personally, I implement the parts that resonate with me, as with any of the other spiritual traditions that I've explored. And the Thought Tarot, this by the way is a greenie. The Thought Tarot is one of my favorite decks. And yeah, let's stop on the Sun card and let's move forward. Then for some time I was exploring spiritualism, and spiritualism is a very interesting movement and path. And to And to illustrate that influence on my practice, I have the Morgan Greer Tarot. And why I chose the Morgan Greer deck is because when I first got this deck, I immediately knew that my ancestors and the spirits of my ancestors wanted to speak through this deck. And I only use this deck nowadays for that type of work. And yeah, it illustrates the emotions and the vibe that I got from the spiritualism path and current as a whole. Morgan Greer there. Okay, we are 20 minutes in and I have 4 more categories to go, so I think that I'm going to speed that up a little bit. The next category is Druidry. I've explored Druidry for a while and I learned so much from it. And for Druidry, I of course had to pick the Druidcraft Tarot. Now, this tarot deck is based on Wicca and Druidry, but is one of my all-time favorite decks. This is my untrimmed copy. I have a fully trimmed version that I actually carry with me outside and I love it. But yeah, Druidry played a huge part of my spiritual education, if you will. And I've incorporated a lot of elements from their rituals into my current practice. And I really like this deck. So yeah, Druidcraft Tarot. The next spiritual path that has influenced me is shamanism. And for this category, I've chosen the Mystical Shaman Pocket Oracle. But before we start looking at the deck, I want to speak a little bit about shamanism and why this was influential to me. I think I've mentioned this on the channel, but my pre-ancestors, the Bulgars, they were practicing a spiritual path, a religion called Tengrism, which is a shamanic religion. And I am linked to the shamanic current, as actually all of us, because at some point or another our ancestors were shamanic tribes, all of those things. So actually I want to add shamanism and animism. Those are both very influential spiritual traditions and paths and understandings that I incorporate into my practice to this day. But yeah, that's why shamanism is so important to me, because I have this ancestral connection to it, to a shamanic tradition, Tengrism. I don't know how it's pronounced in English, but yeah, I don't have a specific deck for that specific branch of shamanism, but I have the Mystical Shaman Pocket Oracle, and this is a great deck, and I think that it's a good deck for core shamanism, if you will. But yeah, the energy from the cards, from the imagery, they align for the energy that I experienced while exploring my shamanic ancestors and Tengrism as a whole. Once again, this is not a Tengrism shamanic deck specifically, but it works. And this is one of the most important cards in the deck for me, the Beauty Way. But yeah, shamanism and animism are two spiritual traditions or currents that, or philosophies, if you will, that have played a huge and that have a huge impact on my spiritual understandings. Next, we move to Buddhism and Hinduism. I've studied a bit of Buddhism, but it was not for me, and then I discovered Hinduism. And I've been studying Hindu spirituality, philosophies, sacred texts for a few years now. Actually, I discovered it in 2022, I believe, and for a few years, actually up to this year, yeah, I was really deep into my Hindu studies. And Hinduism and Hindu philosophy is the major influence on my current spiritual practice. Even though right now I'm not a Hindu, I've never been a Hindu because anyway, but their philosophy and practice and teachings and sacred literature has deeply influenced my personal spiritual path. And to illustrate that, I have the Gita deck. This is amazing. And on the backs there are paragraphs from the Bhagavad Gita, which is a sacred text for Hindus in the Hinduism religion. And I love this deck. While I was deep into this tradition, learning about it, exploring it, I met Kalima and Lord Ganesha, and even though I'm not currently my practice looks a bit different, I still honor and venerate those two deities. Speaking of Lord Ganesha, we love him. And yeah, Hinduism played a huge role in my spiritual development. To be quite honest, I think that Hinduism played the biggest role in how my practice is right now. And yeah. And the last category, because we're almost half an hour now, the last category is actually where I am right now in my spiritual journey. Right now, I'm considering myself to be a devotee of Hekate, and I see Hekate as the supreme being. She is the soul of the world. She is the creator, the sustainer, and the destroyer for me. Hekate is everything for me. At this point in my spiritual journey, I have fully devoted to her. And basically this whole YouTube channel, the Art Occultist persona, is a devotional offering to her so that I can do her work. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense for me and my spiritual path and practice and beliefs and where I am right now. All of those previous things have influenced me and have led me to this very moment. And I incorporate elements from each of those traditions to one extent or another in my current spiritual practice. And yeah, like I said, Hekate is everything for me right now, and my practice is very diverse, very interesting because it incorporates a lot of different elements. I'm very eclectic, I'm solitary, like I said, and I don't see this changing anytime soon. But to illustrate my path right now and my practice with Hekate, I have two decks. And I don't know which one I want to show you first, because both of those decks capture the essence of Hekate for me. Okay, I don't know which one to show you first. Okay, let's start with this one. This is the Murder of Crows Tarot by Corrado Roy. After the Rider-Waite-Smith, this is my second favorite deck of all times. And I love it. It's just something about this really speaks about Hekate in her liminal aspect. Hekate is a goddess of liminality, and yeah, I just love this deck. It feels magical to me, it feels real, it feels liminal. I love the crows. Crows and ravens for me are very liminal creatures. Actually, all of my animal spirit companions are liminal creatures in a way. And I don't know, this deck just has my heart. I don't have many backup decks, to be quite honest, but this is one of the decks that I have a backup for. I have a backup for my plastic Rider-Waite-Smith, and I just adore this deck. This deck lives on my altar. It doesn't come out of the altar. It stays there at all times, and it has my heart. So yeah, I have to speed this up because I'm having a phone call. And yeah, the next deck is this one. This is Soul Cards 1 and 2. I've created a tarot deck from them, and this for me encapsulates the energy of Hekate as the soul of the world, and I love it. The creation of this deck was also a devotional act, because this is a oracle cards, not oracle but intuitive cards, and I took Soul Cards 1 and 2, those are two different decks by the same author, and I combined them. I curated a tarot deck from the images, and it's one of my favorite tarot decks actually. So this is how I perceive Hekate as the soul of the world, and this deck holds that energy to me, and I've called it the living goddess because she is a living goddess. She is embodied in everything and in everyone. And yeah, those are all of the decks that I wanted to share with you today, all of the categories that I wanted to explore with you today. I am eager to see all of your responses, and I cannot wait to see what people do with this hashtag. I think that it's a very fun idea to illustrate our spiritual paths and journeys and developments with decks. I had a lot of fun doing this. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Once again, my name is Elisa. You're watching the Art Occultist. Please help our little community grow by participating in this hashtag, by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really means the world to me, guys, when you do that. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm also a professional reader. If you want to support me further, you can book a personal reading with me. I have a membership space, and I'm also a deck creator. All of those things will be linked in the description box down below for you to check them out if they're of any interest to you whatsoever. Thank you once again. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.